Donald Trump thought he had a victory, a massive $1.8 billion fund, control over who gets compensated, and another opportunity to reward people he believes were unfairly targeted by the federal government. But now, that plan is facing a political and legal rebellion unlike anything Trump has seen from his own party in years. Federal judges are stepping in, Republican senators are openly attacking the proposal, and accusations of fraud, collusion, and abuse of taxpayer money are suddenly dominating headlines. Even some of Trump's closest allies are quietly urging the White House to kill the plan before it becomes a political disaster. So what exactly is this controversial fund? Why are judges freezing it? And why are Republicans, who normally support Trump, suddenly turning against him? Let's break down the political battle that is rapidly escalating in Washington. For years, Donald Trump has argued that America's legal system was weaponized against him and his supporters. Investigations, indictments, civil lawsuits, congressional probes. Trump has repeatedly claimed these actions were politically motivated. Now, during his second term, he has attempted to create something unprecedented, a nearly $1.8 billion program called the Anti-Weaponization Fund. Supporters call it justice. Critics call it a political slush fund, and the fight over its future may become one of the most significant legal and political battles of Trump's presidency. The origins of the fund trace back to Trump's lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service. Trump sued the IRS after confidential tax return information was improperly disclosed years ago. The case eventually ended in a settlement, but instead of a traditional payout, the settlement created something far larger, a fund worth approximately $1.8 billion. The purpose? To compensate people who claimed they were unfairly targeted by federal agencies during previous administrations. On paper, the idea sounds straightforward, but almost immediately, critics raised serious questions. Who qualifies? Who decides? And where exactly is the money coming from? The answers sparked controversy. The fund would be administered by a commission appointed by the Attorney General, and the money would come from the federal government's judgment fund, taxpayer dollars traditionally reserved for settlements involving the United States government. That's where the political firestorm began. The opposition didn't just come from Democrats. Some of the strongest criticism came from Republicans, and that's what made Washington pay attention. Trump has spent years building an extraordinary level of influence inside the Republican Party. Many of his critics have been defeated in primaries. Others have retired. Most Republican lawmakers rarely challenge him publicly, but this time was different. Senators began expressing alarm, some privately, others very publicly. Among the most outspoken was former Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell. His criticism was blunt. He questioned why taxpayer money could potentially be distributed to people involved in the January 6th Capitol riot. The concern stems from the fact that some January 6th defendants could potentially qualify to apply for compensation through the fund. Administration officials have argued that each claim would be reviewed individually, but critics say the possibility alone is politically toxic. The backlash became so intense that Senate leaders reportedly worried they could not secure enough votes to move forward on separate Trump priorities. For a president accustomed to party unity, this level of resistance is highly unusual. Then came an even bigger problem: the federal courts. On the same day, Trump's plan suffered two major legal setbacks. The first came from a federal judge in Virginia. Judge Leonie Brinkema issued a temporary order blocking the administration from moving forward with the fund. No money transfers, no claims processing, no payouts. Everything frozen, at least for now. The judge scheduled a hearing to determine whether the pause should become longer lasting. Her reasoning was straightforward. She wanted to preserve the status quo while legal challenges proceed. The administration had not guaranteed that funds would remain untouched during the litigation, so she stepped in. And suddenly, the entire project hit a wall. The legal arguments against the fund are significant. A coalition of plaintiffs, including former government officials, advocacy groups, and local governments, argues that the program may violate multiple federal laws. At the center of the dispute is a fundamental constitutional question. Can a sitting president effectively use a lawsuit against his own executive branch to create a massive compensation program funded by taxpayers. The challengers say no. They argue that the underlying lawsuit should never have produced such a settlement structure, and they warn that once money begins flowing, any damage could become irreversible. Their argument goes beyond politics. They're challenging the very legality of the program itself. Meanwhile, the Justice Department insists the fund is lawful and supported by historical precedent. The administration argues that victims of politically motivated government actions deserve restitution. The courts will now decide which interpretation prevails.
As if that wasn't enough, another federal judge delivered a second shock. This one goes directly to Trump's original lawsuit against the IRS. Judge Kathleen Williams ordered Trump and his legal team to respond to allegations that the court may have been misled during settlement negotiations. The accusations are serious. A group of former federal judges claims the settlement may have involved improper coordination between Trump's side and government lawyers. In legal language, they're raising questions about possible collusion and potential fraud upon the court. Now, to be clear, these are allegations, not findings. No court has determined wrongdoing occurred, but the fact that a federal judge is demanding answers significantly raises the stakes. The court wants to know whether the parties were truly adversaries during negotiations and whether the settlement process itself should face renewed scrutiny. Suddenly, what began as a compensation fund is becoming a much larger legal controversy. Meanwhile, another separate Justice Department investigation is creating additional political turbulence. Federal prosecutors are examining issues related to E. Jean Carroll's lawsuits against Trump. The investigation reportedly includes scrutiny of funding connected to Democratic megadonor Reid Hoffman. Hoffman has fiercely criticized the probe. He argues the investigation is politically motivated and intended to intimidate Trump critics. Trump supporters see the situation differently. They argue there are legitimate questions about how legal funding was disclosed during Carroll's cases. Regardless of who's right, the investigation adds another layer to an already explosive political environment. And it reinforces a broader theme dominating Washington: the battle over lawfare. Who weaponized the legal system? Who abused government power? And who gets to define justice? Those questions are increasingly shaping Trump's second presidency. This fight isn't really just about one fund. It's about power, it's about accountability, and it's about how future administrations could use the machinery of government. Supporters see the Anti-Weaponization Fund as a corrective measure, a way to compensate people harmed by politically motivated investigations. Opponents see something entirely different, a mechanism that could reward political allies using taxpayer dollars. The outcome could establish a precedent that lasts far beyond Trump himself, and that's why the stakes are so high. For now, the Anti-Weaponization Fund sits frozen, blocked in court, under legal scrutiny, and facing rare resistance from within Trump's own party. The president still commands enormous influence in Washington, but even presidents with powerful political movements can encounter limits, especially when courts, Congress, and public opinion collide at the same time. The coming weeks could determine whether Trump's $1.8 billion vision survives, or whether it becomes one of the most controversial failed initiatives of his presidency. Do you think the Anti-Weaponization Fund is a legitimate effort to compensate victims of government overreach, or does it create dangerous new powers for future administrations? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into politics, geopolitics, and the stories shaping the future of America and the world. Thanks for watching.